So Willy Woo has just predicted that he expects a $4.8 million Bitcoin in the coming years. But this is obviously happening earlier in the week. Today, Cathie Wood came out and said, look, yes, I predicted Bitcoin will hit $1.5 million last year, but today I'm increasing my Bitcoin price prediction to $3.8 million. So why have both of these Bitcoin price predictions came out on the very same week? Are they related? Is there something happening behind the scenes that we don't know about? Well, today we're going to be explaining all of that. So if you missed the news, this is what happened earlier in the week. Okay, we can see by the headline, the analyst predicts a $4.8 million Bitcoin as the danger zone nears. Okay, so we can see this, obviously, this article on the bitcoinnews.com website. If you're not following the articles we're putting out over there, you should be, because you can see that we wrote here, renowned analyst Willy Woo has recently explained his strategic vision for Bitcoin, suggesting 3 bold scenarios that could see the digital asset soar to unprecedented heights of $4.8 million per Bitcoin. So you can see here, we linked to his tweet. Now, his tweet here is going to be very, very crucial to cover because it tells us everything we need to know. So Willy starts his tweet here by saying, look, when I got into Bitcoin in 2013, I weighed the chances of Bitcoin's success versus its payoff. And he says that I figured it had more than a 50% chance of beating gold. And if so, I would make 1000x, because at the time, the Bitcoin price in 2013 was like, it was under $1,000. So Bitcoin had a crazy bull market between 2012 and 2013 and rallied from $12 all the way up to $1,200. Okay. So at the time, Willy said, if Bitcoin surpasses gold, it's a 1000x. And he thought this had a higher than 50% probability than happening. But now he's saying that the probabilities are changing just a little bit. So we can see here by Willy's tweet, he lays out his thesis in a little bit more detail. Life doesn't present these kinds of risk rewards very often. And at the time in 2013, he bought immediately. But today, he's saying his new bet is that he believes that Bitcoin can hit $4.8 million if we see hyper Bitcoinization. Okay, he has another couple of other price targets for Bitcoin here in a minute, but it's probably important to note, not everybody believes that we need to see hyper Bitcoinization to see a $4.8 million Bitcoin price tag. Okay, we're going to look at Cathie Wood's new $3.8 million Bitcoin price tag in a moment, but we're going to see that she doesn't necessarily make the case that we need hyper Bitcoinization to see Bitcoin at these prices. Okay, again, some people aren't as bullish on Bitcoin as we are. There's fireworks going on behind me right now, so clearly the live stream here on StreamYard is bullish. But again, like Cathie Wood's just saying, look, Bitcoin can just be another alternative asset, doesn't need to take over everything and demonetize the world. And she still sees a future where Bitcoin can hit $3.5 million. Okay, we're going to get to Cathie Wood's prediction here in a moment. But I want to continue breaking down Willy's tweet and Willy's prediction. So $4.8 million is his first expectation or price target for Bitcoin. His second is that Bitcoin can reach $1 million if it matches the size of the US dollar. Okay. Again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, but the US dollar has been the global reserve currency for the past 100 years. It's absurd that Bitcoin could become bigger than the US dollar. Well, I'd like to remind you guys, there's over, 150 fiat currencies around the world today, and Bitcoin's already in the top 15. Okay, it is bigger than many very, very large currencies like the Swiss franc and many others that we're going to look at a little bit later on. Okay, but let's move on here. We're not talking about currencies today. We're talking about where we believe Bitcoin can be. Okay, so Willy Woo's third Bitcoin price target is he believes it can be worth $690,000 if it displaces gold. So Willy is saying that the payoff for a future for Bitcoin is now 10x to 70x. And he says, now make your own guesses at the chances of success and bet accordingly. And Willy adds one more very interesting tweet here at the very bottom of this thread. He says, for example, if you think there's more than a 10% chance of Bitcoin superseding gold, then it's probably worth investing to get the 10x. Okay, again, this is something that Greg Foss always talks about. He always talks about the fact that there is absolutely no certainties, there is only probabilities. Okay, this is a very important point when we're talking about Bitcoin's future. And as Rob in the chat says, hyper Bitcoinization. Okay, I tend to believe that hyper Bitcoinization is a matter of when, not if. Everything is obviously on a time frame. But we can see from this article here, we're talking about probabilities. Okay, and now I wanted to raise this because I think it's important to remember that nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going to go in the future. Some people are critical of Willy Woo because in 2021 he tweeted this out where he said that Bitcoin as a $1 trillion asset class, in my opinion, is now cemented. Hard to see it dropping below this zone, okay? Most people who were around in the past cycle might have remembered that. And you can see Willy had a nice model and a nice chart to back up this prediction. It was his Bitcoin supply profile chart. This is just another reminder, guys, that nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going in the short term, the medium term, or the long term, okay? Even Willy Woo has even had issues making, predictions in the past, okay? Making predictions about the price of Bitcoin is a very difficult thing. It's nearly impossible. Nobody knows where that price of Bitcoin is going to be in the future. Okay, Kim Cheese asking for more details. That is, just let us know in the chat, Kim Chi, which question you're referring to in particular, and be more than happy to explain it in a little bit more detail. We have the camera sorted. Producer Pam is out exploring Madrid today, so she's not able to help me with the camera. I had an issue, but it's resolved. Now, something that is resolved or something that is changing is the fact that Cathie Wood, as you can see by this tweet here that we popped out on our Twitter today, has increased her Bitcoin price target from $1.5 million to $3.8 million. Now, again, some people might be new here and they might be saying, hang on a minute, when did Cathie Wood predict a $1.5 million Bitcoin? Like, she's a multi-hundred millionaire. She has a very large net worth, not quite a billionaire yet, but I'm sure Cathie will get there considering how bullish she is on Bitcoin. But let's actually, kind of break down her first kind of Bitcoin price prediction for those people who might have missed it, okay?
Increíbles.
Video here, and I apologize about the ads that are in Spanish. I forget that the ads obviously hit autoplay as soon as you try to refresh a browser. So let's listen to Cathie Wood's first $1 million Bitcoin price prediction and her logic behind why she thinks it can hit that by 2030.
Cathie, that you're going to hold to your Bitcoin forecast for, what is it, $1 million per coin by 2030. That still feels good to you?
Yes, and you can, sometimes you need to battle test. You need to go through crises to see who the real, to see this.
Something I just want to interrupt this video and point to your attention is the fact that have a look at the price of Bitcoin at the very bottom of this video. Bitcoin was at $16,000 and Cathie Wood was going on news saying, look, this is my thesis for $1 million Bitcoin. This is where I expect it can go, okay? I interrupt that video because it's important to recognize how these price targets change as the price of Bitcoin changes. Okay, today Bitcoin's rallied 400% since Cathie made this prediction in the bottom of the bear market. Does this, have anything to do with why she's increased her Bitcoin price prediction today? We're going to talk about that in a sec. I just want to play the rest of this video.
Survivors, first of all, but really to battle test the infrastructure and the thesis. And again, we think Bitcoin is coming out of this smelling like a rose because of what I have mentioned previously. And I do think, though, the one thing that will be delayed is perhaps institutions stepping back and just saying, okay, do we really understand this? And once they actually do the homework and see what's happened here, I think they might be more comfortable moving into Bitcoin and perhaps Ether
Oh,
as a
yuck.
first stop,
You know, you
because they'll understand it more.
Okay, so Kathy Wood's talking about how we would
Okay, now
eventually see institutional interest into Bitcoin despite FTX crashing. Okay, that is the point of that video. Yes, she mentioned another, let's call it an altcoin to keep the video safe and PG friendly here on the YouTube channel, but she hasn't written extensive research reports like we're about to show you, looking at the future price of altcoins, but she has on Bitcoin. Okay, so again, Bitcoin is in a completely different bucket to the rest of the altcoins, and we can see Kathy Wood is kind of famous for this prediction here that she made in her end of year 2023 newsletter. Okay, so in it, she actually shows that she kind of has, three kind of cases for where she expects the price of Bitcoin to go. She has a bearish case for Bitcoin, she has a bullish case for Bitcoin, and she has a base case for Bitcoin. So you guys should be able to see that now on the screen. So her bearish case for Bitcoin in 2030 is a $258,000 price tag, okay? And she's actually assuming that Bitcoin is going to have a CAGR of 40% between 2024 and 2030, okay? For those who don't know what a CAGR is something called a compound annual growth rate. And it's measuring how fast an asset is growing on an annualized basis, okay? So until now, Bitcoin's actually been growing at around a 100% CAGR. Obviously, these numbers fluctuate, especially considering how quickly Bitcoin's fluctuated in the past year. But again, that's just pretty impressive. All that's saying is Bitcoin pretty much doubles every single year, year after year. Okay, this is an average, so it's obviously not taking into account the years that Bitcoin goes up 4x, but it also doesn't take into account the years that Bitcoin drops by 80%. Okay, this 15-year CAGR for Bitcoin has taken the average of all of these very volatile years. So on average, Bitcoin doubles every year. It's as simple as that. So Kathy's saying, look, let's be a little bit more conservative. Let's be a little bit more kind of, on the conservative end of things. And she's saying if Bitcoin only appreciates by 40% per year, her bearish case for Bitcoin is it can hit $258,000 by 2030. Okay, now that's pretty bullish, but it is not as bullish as the rest of her predictions in here. We can see before we get to them, Rob Wallace is in the chat and he says, smash that like button. Again, small things like that really do help get these kind of videos in front of the eyeballs of more people. So you can smash it if you would like. But again, her second prediction here that Kathy Wood's kind of talking about is her base case. So she believes Bitcoin's going to hit $682,000 and 800 cents by 2030. And you can see that she's assuming that Bitcoin is growing at about 60% per year under that CAGR. But on the right-hand side of this chart, there's also a very interesting little, what are we going to call this? A little, it's kind of showing you how much capital Bitcoin is going to pull out of traditional assets. So for Bitcoin to reach Kathy Wood's base case, we can see that she's only assuming that Bitcoin's going to capture 10% of the remittance market. It's only going to capture 40% of the demand for a digital gold. Okay, so obviously we have gold, but then we all obviously have Bitcoin as well. So she's not saying Bitcoin's going to completely demonetize gold. She's just saying, look, Bitcoin can represent 40% of that bucket. She's also saying that she only expects Bitcoin to appear in 1% of nation state treasuries. So you can see that her case for a $682,000 Bitcoin is very conservative, okay? She's not kind of saying that Bitcoin's going to completely demonetize everything, like many of us Bitcoiners probably lean towards or think Bitcoin has the potential to do. Okay. So again, and her most bullish Bitcoin price prediction as of 2023 in this report was a $1.48 million Bitcoin. And to get there, we needed to be appreciating at a 75% CAGR. So 75% growth every single year. Now so that's the old news. Okay. That was Cathie Wood's CAGR, up until today. Now, today, all that has changed because Cathie Wood just recently came out and she says that Bitcoin could go as high as $3.8 million. And have a look at the date of this article, March 22nd, 2024. That's a little bit of a tongue twister, that one. So Cathie Wood said on Friday that she is adding an additional $2.3 million to her Bitcoin price prediction. Okay, this is massive. And again, let's kind of figure out why Cathie is saying this. She said this when Bitcoin was trading at $63,000. So despite Bitcoin being down 15%, Cathie is still incredibly bullish on Bitcoin. And she says, last year, we put out our bull case for Bitcoin at $1.5 million, but things have changed. In 2023, we didn't have the institutional kind of stamp of approval for Bitcoin. Again, think about the environment for Bitcoin in 2023. We were suffering from Operation Choke Point 2.0, and we didn't have the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, going on mainstream television defending Bitcoin at every chance Larry Fink gets, okay? But now we have the ETFs live, and Cathie Wood is accordingly adjusting her Bitcoin price predictions. She's saying, look, when the data changes, I change. And she says, with the institutional green light that the SEC has provided, kicking and screaming though it did, the analysis we've done is that if institutional investors were to allocate a little more than 5% of their portfolios to Bitcoin, that alone would add 2.3 million to the projection I just gave you. Okay, so if we would go back to the little this 35-page research report Cathie Wood did, we can see in her $1.48 million bullish 2030 Bitcoin price projection, she's actually making the case that institutional allocators would only be putting 2.5% of their money into Bitcoin. Now, again, that might sound like a lot today, but this is in 8 years' time. And she's saying only 2.5% will be allocated to Bitcoin. Now, in this most recent article, she's saying, look, the ETFs have changed this. It has changed how I feel about how much money will flow into these Bitcoin ETFs because of these institutional capital allocators. And obviously, we also have the halving coming up. So Wood also said that in the 12 months following the 3 halvings in 2012, 2016, and 2020, the price of Bitcoin climbed by 8,000%, 280%, and 559%. So Wood says that Bitcoin has miles to go. We're at the very beginning of really putting in place the financial ecosystem native to the internet and disintermediating all of the toll takers. So a toll taker is someone who takes their cut of everything, so to say. Okay, so this is incredibly bullish. And I think it's very interesting that this Cathie Wood Bitcoin price prediction comes out the same week as Willy Woo's Bitcoin price prediction. Are they related? Honestly, who knows? But something that is obviously noteworthy is the fact that the price of Bitcoin is at its all-time high. Well, it's close to its all-time high. It's within 15% of its all-time high. And as we can see, as Bitcoin appreciates, the bullish Bitcoin price targets also kind of come up, and all of the Bitcoin bulls come out of the woodwork, okay? Which is very interesting to see, and something we're going to actually see more of in the future, okay? This Bitcoin bull market has only really just started, guys. So if you're here, if you're watching these live streams at the very beginning of the Bitcoin bull market, welcome, and massive shout out to Johnny Midas. He's in the live chat again. And I think Maxi DJ makes a great point. Who wouldn't invest 1% of their net worth as a hedge to protect the other 99% of their net worth? Okay, great point there by Maxi DJ. Now, guys, again, hope you enjoyed today's live stream. If you didn't know, we go live at least 2 to 3 times a week. So subscribe so you don't miss any of those. And we're probably going to leave this one here, and we will catch you in another live stream.